Last year, the year that shall not be named, I got a new appreciation for the garden. Beyond the fact that it's beautiful to look at and a place where I can watch the hedgehogs and the squirrels and the birds and the insects. And it's a place where I can get some exercise and meditate and catch some sunshine and connect with the earth and smell the roses and grow some food and grow flowers to put in a vase and plants to make tea with and a place to read. Beyond that, my garden helps my mental health. Despite lockdown and isolation, I managed pretty well as long as I had my garden. Over winter, my mental health took a knock and it's been rough. Now, to pick myself up a little, I'm going to spend some time with my garden. So, this is what things look like right now. It's quite brown. When the garden is at its lowest, it's a good time to plan ahead for things to come in the season. I took over the space from my mother, who is a far better gardener than myself, and whenever I think about making changes, I try to be mindful not to destroy what she grew. Everything is cold and brown now, but things are moving in the right direction. Last week things looked like this. I still have time. Really, I'm a little early. We have late frosts as late as March and even, if we're really unlucky, April. Last year we had a late frost that killed all the flowers on the damson tree and we barely had any fruit. I usually start my annual seeds in early March. That works out pretty well usually. By the time the plants are big enough to be planted out, the weather usually warms up enough and they survive. Or at least they would have if the weather was the only variable. I try to leave my garden pretty... Depending on your point of view, you could call it either messy or wild. I prefer wild. You know, corners of dead wood and leaves, let things rot in their own good time instead of cleaning everything up all the time. It's better for the insects, and I have quite a good amount. But together with the insects I want around, come the kind that I could do without. Slugs. There's so many slugs in this garden, it's sometimes a little overwhelming. Last year I planted out 30 to 40 little beet plants that are reared from seed, and I was so excited to grow them and I had recipes ready, and the morning after I planted them, they were all gone. All gone. The only thing I had left were a couple of fat slugs sitting in the middle of the patch like they wanted me to know what they had done. The monsters. Gardening is a trade-off in that way. When you make a space to attract useful insects, you're making space for slugs too. But as much as I complain about them, and I do, I like that they enjoy the space I created. Speaking of the space I created, I drew a little plan here in my garden notebook. My plot is pretty full. I'm sitting down here in this little nook. I can hide in here from the rain, the wind, the midday August sun, and I'm just hidden enough so the animals come and I can watch. I spent so much time here that animals got used to me eventually. So the most important spots on this map are the red crosses, where I feed the birds and hedgehogs, food spots and water. If you can put out some water, even more than food, they need water. And watching birds bathe on your balcony or windowsill is just so cute. The blue bits are annual vegetables, mostly peas and beans that I want to plant, and a pumpkin on the compost. And underneath the conifer, I want to build myself a little spot so I can sit and look at things from a different perspective. Also, the neighborhood cats keep sneaking in around that corner. I'm kind of sick of finding brutalized birds and mice, so if I have a spot where I can sit over there, I hope I'll be able to stop a few cats coming in. Orange spots on the plan are perennial fruits I planted last year. I really hope and keep my fingers crossed that they made it through the winter. I went through my seeds. Oh, speaking of seeds, since Corona a bunch of people have started gardening, which is fantastic, but last year that led to a seed shortage. And apparently it's predicted to repeat this year, so plan ahead. I went through my seeds and chose some beans, tomatoes and a whole lot of annual flower seeds. The white packs are filled with seeds from the garden. My flowers self-seed mostly and move through the garden beds as they please, but every autumn I take a few seeds just in case. I also let the beans I grow fully ripen, well, a few pods, and plant them out next year. I hope that if I do this year after year after year, always choosing the nicest, biggest pods for seeds, eventually I'll develop my own variety that likes the soil, microclimate and the treatment it gets from me. Check back in about 20 years to find out how that went. I'll also dot around a few pots for dahlias, maybe some chives, if I can figure out where to put them. Maybe I'll grow some sweet potatoes. I could put them on the compost heap with the pumpkin. Every year I plant too much and every year I promise myself I won't do it again. Alright, so I'm going to cut myself off here. When I get started talking about gardening, I keep chattering for an hour, but I shan't. And because I don't quite know how to end this video, I'll end on a quote from Naomi Milthorpe's Austerity Gardens. In this we find the central tenet of gardening, an ethic of care, the entanglement of human and more than human life, a productive revision of the meaning of value.